So in this module, we're gonna learn about brain. So what is brain? Brain is a complex organ that control thoughts, memory, emotion, touch, motor skills, vision, breathing, temperature, hunger, and every process that regulate our body. Protective covering of brain. These are three layers of membrane known as meninges that protect brain and spinal cord. The delicate inner membrane is a pyometra. The middle membrane is called arachnoid and a web-like structure filled with a fluid that cushions the brain. The thought's outer layer is called the dura mater. So, in this module, we're gonna learn about protective layer of brain. So, here a diagram uh, where we can easily see the inner layer, outer layer, and the middle layer. So, pyometra defined as the thin layer, thin inner layer of a meninges and present in a direct contact with the cerebellum cortex and the spinal cord and is tightly protected. The pyometra is composed of a rich supply of blood vessels to provide the nervous tissue with the nutrition. Pyometra is usually cover the spinal cord and is made up of two layers. An outer layer is a collagen fiber and the inner layer is a encapsulated the entire spinal cord. So the middle layer is a arachnoid matter is defined as the middle meninges layer that connect the dura mater and the pyometra. The arachnoid is named as such because it is a spider web appearance. The arachnoid membrane loosely covers the brain and the spinal cord, and its originate its name from the web-like appearance. The outer layer is a dura mater is usually a durable white fibrous connective tissue. It is always observed as a pachymanix. Duramater usually means hard mother that protect the central nervous system. So, brain is divided into three parts, which we call as a primary brain vesicles. So, brain parts are प्रोजेंसिफेलॉन mesencephalon and rhombocephalon. ठीक है, prosencephalon और rhombocephalons are further divided, but the mesencephalons is a midbrain which is not further divided. So prosencephalon is also called a forebrain, which contain cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus, and a midbrain which contain midbrain, and a hindbrain which contain which contain pons, medulla, and cerebellum. So take a look on a prosencephalon. So prosencephalon is the most rotile portion of a central nervous system. It consists of telocephalon and a diencephalon. Telocephalon is further divided into a lateral ventricles and the cerebellum. And another way, diencephalon is include hypothalamus, thalamus, and epithalamus. So we're gonna already talk about the forebrain. Now we're gonna repeat this once again. Then the prosencephalon is the most rotten portion of the central nervous system, as we know. It consists diencephalon and a telocephalon. So telocephalon is consists of a cerebrum lobes and the basal ganglion. The diencephalon consists of a epithalamus, hypothalamus, and a thalamus. So now we're gonna know that the skeleton. Now we're gonna talk about the cerebral spinal fluid. So now we're gonna learn about the cerebral spinal fluid. So cerebral spinal fluids क्या होता है? Clear colorless liquid protect brain and the spinal cord for the injury. Cerebrospinal fluids fill cavity with the brain ventricles. So these ventricles are lateral ventricle, third ventricle, and the fourth ventricles. Lateral ventricle located in each hemisphere of the cerebrum. And the third ventricle is the narrow middle superior of a hypothalamus cavity between the right and the left levels of the thalamus. Now, the fourth ventricle is the brain between the brain stems and the cerebellum. So, now we're gonna know that the cerebrospinal fluids contain the glucose, protein, lactic acid, urea, and cation like the sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and the anion. Also contain the white blood cells. So, now now we're gonna talk about forebrain and their parts. So forebrain basically divided into three parts, which are olfactory lobes, cerebrum, and the diencephalon. The olfactory lobes are the paired solid club-shaped structures relaying sense of smell, whereas cerebrum is a top portion of a brain which divides the deep cervixes called the longitudinal scalus. It separates the cerebrum into a right and a left hemisphere. In the hemisphere lies the cerebral cortex, basal ganglion, and the limbic system. Now, we're going to talk about diencephalon. Diencephalon is a house or a center for emotion, which uh, regulate sweating, fatigue, sleeping, thirst, and hunger. So now we're gonna talk about the hindbrain. So hindbrain basically includes the medulla, cerebellum, and the pons. So medulla is a control center for the respiratory, cardiovascular, and the digestive function of our body. Now cerebellum. Cerebellum that is located in a posterior part of the medulla oblongata and the pons. So it coordinates the skeletal muscles to produce a graceful and a smooth motion. Cerebellum receives messages from our eye, ear, muscles, and our joints about what the position our body is. So now pons control the control center for the respiratory and the inhibitory functions. Interact with the cerebellum. So we already learned about the rhombocephalon, which is divided into a metacephalon and a myocephalon. So metacephalon include the cerebellum, pons, and the upper parts of the fourth ventricles, and the myocephalon is include the medulla oblongata and the lower parts of the fourth ventricles. We already learned about the functions of the cerebellum, pons, and the medulla oblongata. Now we're gonna come for our next topic, which is the loops. So, frontal loops include problem solving, emotional traits, reasoning, speaking, voluntary motor activities. Parental loops include knowing right and left sensation and reading body orientation. Occipital loops includes vision and the color precipitation. Cerebrum includes a balance and the coordination and the controls of the voluntary movements and a fine muscles control. Brain stems brain stems control breathing, body temperature, digestion, alternate sleeps, and the swelling. Tempo- Temporal loops control understanding, language, behaviors, memory, and hearing.